Last year, we witnessed the birth of a new horror icon brought to us by a director who has been killing it in the game for years. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about one of my favorite horror movies of all time, its director, and its trilogy. Everybody, Nick here at the Lost River Drive-In, and tonight I wanted to talk about X, Tai West, Pearl, MaXXXine, all of it. I wanted to cover pretty much the filmmaker himself and then this series and kind of talk about what it means for horror and what the movie means to me and this, budgeting franchise. Last year, I remember seeing the trailer for X. I can't remember what movie I was seeing, but I was in the theater and I saw the trailer and I thought, that looks like grindhouse porn. And I was like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. I went and saw the movie opening day, and I was surprised to see the kind of muted response, at least financially, at the box office. It did well for its budget, but it was not a big deal by any stretch of the imagination. But it was getting, just praised by critics left and right. And I knew going into this, it being Tai West, that I was probably going to like this movie. And then based off of the trailers and everything I knew about it, I was like, this seems interesting. And I was not wrong about that whatsoever. Really quickly for you guys, if you're not familiar with Tai West as a filmmaker, he's done a lot of movies that, they don't get these wide theatrical releases, but they're, super well reviewed and regarded in the horror community and by critics alike. Did a segment on one of the VHS movies, and then went on to do movies like The Innkeepers, House of the Devil, and then The Sacrament, and then now obviously his X trilogy. And a lot of people, when X came out, and the horror community was a buzz about it, and then we got the obviously surprise announcement at the end of the prequel, Pearl, that had already filmed back-to-back and was coming out later that year. People started to take notice of the guy and really started to perk their ears up a little bit and be like, oh, what's this about? And for good reason. And if some of you guys still haven't, I urge you to go back and watch some of Tai West's movies. See, X is one of the movies in his oeuvre, probably the only movie that is a little bit different than every other movie he's done. Now, his style is suspense, dread, fear for 90% of the movie, and then balls to the wall craziness in the climax. That is Tai West's style. X is like that, but not as extreme as his other movies, because X, about halfway through, stuff starts to really happen. You start to get some kills, you get some gore, and the stakes get upped a little bit. Whereas in a movie like The Sacrament, it's the very end where everything goes down. Or The House of the Devil, it's the last 15 minutes, really. But X was more of a modern kind of take, in the sense of, we know that audiences don't have incredibly long attention spans most of the time, so we need to kind of get to the gore and the goods. But there's still a lot of build up there, and suspense and tension and mystery that we go along for the ride with until the second half of the movie. Now, X was a movie that surprised the hell out of me, because I went into it thinking I was probably going to like it. I liked what I had seen, but I could not anticipate what this movie actually was. First and foremost, you watch those trailers and you think it's going to be a glorified porno. And then obviously they're shooting a porno. And it's not. It's tastefully done. It obviously makes complete sense in the time period that this movie was taking place, and obviously for character motivation for MaXXXine. But it's really tastefully done. It's almost done more, and it's not so much of a voyeuristic kind of ooh, look at that. It's almost historical in a way. It's kind of weird to explain it, but that's what I think of. It's not super on the nose and in your face. Then on top of that, you've got this story that it's setting up that we obviously know something's going on, but we don't know what or why. And you're really wondering if this is going to be your prototypical, spooky forces or supernatural thing, mythic creature, whatever causes X to happen. Oh, no pun intended. But no, the moral of the story and the idea of this movie is that the old woman simply is jealous because she remembers when she had vitality in youth. And she feels like these people are just, they shouldn't be able to get to do what she can't do anymore. So she wants to kill them because of that. And that is a really just nihilistic and grounded take. I mean, I hope there aren't elderly people out there that is their goal, to kill to kill young people because they're not young anymore. But it was really grounded and unique for this movie to do that. And you think that maybe there's going to be some like ulterior motive here, or some like underlying reason that isn't spelled out clearly to you. And no, it's right there. And that's good, because it also helps with modern audiences, you know, sometimes not really reading the tea leaves and understanding symbolism and whatnot. But beyond all that, the reason a movie like X works so well is, yes, it has enough modern flair to keep people interested, and enough of Tai West's building of suspense to make you wonder what you're going to potentially see. But X also has an X factor to it. And I'm not saying that to be cheeky. It really does have an X factor to it. And I would say it's X factors. One, it looks period. This looks like it takes place in the 70s. Whether it's the camera style, whether it's the shot composition, there's something about it that makes you think Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, it's the first thing that I think of. It's the first thing a lot of people think of with this movie. You really think Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It feels hot. It feels like that time period. You've also got incredible acting across the board. Brittany Snow is awesome in this movie. But let's not kid ourselves. I mean, Jenna Ortega's great too. Let's not kid ourselves. Mia Goth burst onto the scene with this movie, and rightfully so, because she is a superstar. Like, I'm telling you, this woman is going to win awards if she goes into other genres, because, you know, horror is obviously the whipping boy of the film industry. But she is a phenomenal actress, and from the moment you're introduced to her, when she's almost kind of mousy and quiet at first, and then really, really comes into her own, and you buy her turn, and you buy her being this final girl badass. But at the end of the day, it's not your typical final girl where you're like, yeah, good for you, sister. She kind of has bad intentions too. Her intentions simply are to be a star. She wants to be famous. She wants to be rich. She wants people to know her name. It's not these like super moral reasons why she does what she does and fights back. And no, she wants to be famous. And I'm assuming that's going to get played up on in MaXXXine. But you can't help but root for her. Because if you had an actress in this role that didn't really come across as a star, you couldn't buy it. But as you're watching this movie, you're like, she's a freaking star, man. And you just so buy into her plight. And so I cannot stress enough how the tone, the soundtrack, the acting, the practical effects, the suspense, the building of tension, it's awesome. It is so awesome. This movie, it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And it came out in the year 2022. That's crazy to me, because as horror fans, we look back on movies that we would consider classics. And we go, well, this is definitely up there. This is definitely up there. X is going to be one of those movies 20 years, 30 years from now. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be one of those movies where a lot of people are going to look back and be like, this movie's incredible. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Pearl as well. You guys know I loved Pearl. I absolutely loved Pearl as well. It didn't have the same impact for me as X, because Pearl was a different type of horror. It was psychological horror. And while I love psychological horror, that's not a knock on the movie at all, I much preferred the Texas Chainsaw Massacre style that X had, rather than the super slow burn and really just emotional and mental aspects of Pearl. It's a super interesting story. It's incredibly well acted again, if not better, by Mia Goth. Let's be totally honest. That movie was really when people were like, oh my God, this woman. Yeah, she's incredible. It obviously made a little bit more money, got a little bit more notoriety with people on the internet and casual moviegoers. But I don't know. I just like the kind of grindhouse. I just kind of gravitate towards that. But I mention it because obviously this is Tai West. And he has announced, and they are currently filming, if not wrapped filming, the third part, the capper of this trilogy, MaXXXine. And I am so excited for this movie. And I can't even begin to tell you guys how excited I am. And it's for a myriad of reasons. Like, MaXXXine is obviously a direct sequel to X, and I prefer the tone of X. So I feel like that is going to play well for me. I also feel like it's going to play well for me that I'm watching MaXXXine, not Pearl. I loved Mia Goth as Pearl, but I'm really interested in MaXXXine. Because we've now seen in 2 movies how Pearl got to be where she was and why. Now I want to see what happened to MaXXXine after X and how she gets to where she is now and why and what happens. That is really intriguing to me. And I think Mia Goth, as a very talented actress, is going to nail that. She's going to knock it out of the park. I'm not even concerned about it. But most importantly, it's 1985 in Hollywood. I mean, the soundtrack, the drugs, it's going to be rock and roll, balls to the wall, boobs a-poppin'. This movie's going to rule. Like, it's going to rule. I've said many times before that I think that MaXXXine is probably going to be my best one because it has all these factors going for it. My best one, my favorite one. Talk too fast sometimes. But and I say that, and it's not that it won't be and that it can't be, but when I'm honest with myself and I step back and I go, remember how X impacted you, how X hit you. Do you really think that a movie will do that again in such a short time? Maybe not. The odds are that that doesn't happen. Movies don't affect me like X does very often. And I think a lot of us as moviegoers feel that same way. You'll have a movie that really knocks you, kicks you in the ass. And you'll have great movies after that. But it takes a while for another one to really do that to you. But the reason I'm hopeful, it's the same team. It's Tai West back, writing and directing. It's Mia Goth back as MaXXXine. It's the 80s in Hollywood. Like, I'm really, really, really optimistic. I've got to say, if you guys haven't seen all of Tai West's work, and I did mention this near the beginning of the video, but I just want to say, I implore you to at least check out The House of the Devil. The House of the Devil is an incredible movie that I'm still not sure if X or The House of the Devil is my favorite Tai West movie. Like, dead serious. I love them both so much, and they both had that profound effect on me every time, the first time I watched each one. House of the Devil is an incredible movie. If you love the Carpenter style, that time period, that you're going to love it. It's a very 70s feeling, cold weather, Halloween atmosphere type movie with a super slow burn to a batshit third act. I mean, it's everything that I love about horror. It's my type of horror. Now, obviously, you guys know that I dabble in other subgenres, and I love my gore and all this stuff, but House of the Devil, that type of movie, that's my go-to. It's like a modern day Halloween in some ways. So I implore you guys to go watch that movie if you have not already. I want to wrap this up by saying that, obviously we know MaXXXine is coming, hopefully this fall. We do not have a release date for that yet. I know it started filming in April, so I would assume it's actually probably done or damn near done. Maybe it was April. I think it was April. Might have been May. Either way, it's probably almost done filming or is finished filming now. I hope they could turn it around for the fall. I think that'd be really cool. If not, it's whatever. It's either going to be fall or spring. It'll be out by spring. But if I was a betting man, I'd probably say spring, which is a bummer because I want to see it this Halloween season. But I want to wrap this up just by saying that, I made a video last week about modern horror and the state of it and how we're really eating well as horror fans and how there is this, argument that you see all over the place often about how we need more original horror. We need more original ideas. We're watching a completely original. Now, yes, it cribs off of certain things. That's inspiration and homage. Okay. It's still an original movie. A completely original trilogy being born right before our eyes, that I expect all 3 movies to be super well regarded by audiences and critics alike. They're going to be successful financially, and I think it'll go down in the annals of history as one of the most solid front-to-back horror trilogies ever. Like, seriously, and I can already say that because the technical style of filmmaking and the attention to detail and the craftsmanship and the work by the actors and the locations, it's just brilliance. Like, even if you don't like the movie or the story doesn't work for you, you can't walk away from this movie saying anything other than, that was super well made, though. I gotta give them credit. It maybe didn't work for me, but it was really well done. And I think that that is underappreciated sometimes, because we'll get a lot of schlock sometimes, and a lot of just studio overproduced horror movies that they're just trying to make $100 million, pay some bills, make a sequel, and people will go eat it up. These movies aren't like that. This is clearly a passion project. There's clearly a very large story that Tai West wants to tell here, and that Mia Goth is game for telling herself. And I think we need to take a step back every now and then and realize, like, wow, this is really, really cool to be living through. And I'm super, super excited for MaXXXine. I think that Tai West should get every opportunity he wants. I mean, he should have before this, but after this trilogy, he should get any and every opportunity that he wants, because he is a damn good filmmaker. I mean, one of the best working today, in my opinion. He genuinely is one of the best. So, but I want to know what you guys think. You know, what do you remember about seeing X for the first time, or Pearl for the first time? How do you feel about this series as a whole right now? And how do you expect to feel about MaXXXine? How do you expect to feel about the trilogy as a whole when it's all said and done? Anything and everything of the sort, comment down below and let's discuss. Leave a like on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on social media. All of my links are down below in the description. I thank you guys for sitting back and listening to me talk about my girl, and I hope yours, MaXXXine. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I am pulling out.